George Pickens didn't wait long to stir up controversy. On the very first day of Cowboys training camp, he used a simple question about his development as a wide receiver to take a not-so-subtle shot at the Pittsburgh Steelers. When asked about expanding his game and becoming more than just a deep threat, Pickens responded, "Yeah, I'm definitely excited to run better plays for sure." That wasn't just a stray comment. It was clearly directed at the play calling in Pittsburgh. Rather than highlight his own growth or enthusiasm about the Cowboys' offense, he opted to use the moment to criticize his former team. To be fair, Pickens isn't completely off base. Pittsburgh's offensive system has been questionable at best over the last few years. He spent most of his time under Matt Canada, whose playbook left a lot to be desired. Canada's time as offensive coordinator was widely seen as a failure. Things improved briefly when Mike Sullivan and Eddie Faulkner took over midway through last season. Their willingness to adapt gave the offense a bit of life, at least until quarterback play became an issue again. When Kenny Pickett was healthy, things looked promising. But once he got hurt and Mitch Trubisky took over, the offense stalled. Regardless of how creative Sullivan and Faulkner tried to be, they couldn't overcome poor quarterback execution. However, when Mason Rudolph stepped in for the final stretch, the offense took off. In those last 3 games, Pittsburgh looked like one of the best offenses in the league. That shows the play calling wasn't always the root of the problem. And with Arthur Smith coming in as offensive coordinator for 2024, there was real progress, until the final couple of games, where things got conservative and predictable again. Still, Smith overall was a positive force, and Pickens was on track for a career season before he got injured, tallying 900 yards in just 14 games. But let's not pretend all of Pickens' struggles were because of coaching. He held himself back at times. While he had big moments, like when he battled Patrick Surtain and drew multiple pass interference penalties, he also regressed in areas like catching routine passes, maintaining ball security, and running crisp routes. He dropped easy balls, fumbled in critical moments, and showed inconsistent effort as a blocker. The frustrations he voiced, like during his rookie year against the Falcons when he complained about not getting the ball despite the run game dominating, highlighted an attitude problem that never quite went away. So, when he says he's excited to run better plays, it's hard not to see it as more than a little hypocritical. The question he was asked was about his own growth. But instead of reflecting on his development or the opportunity ahead with the Cowboys, he deflected blame back onto the Steelers. And this wasn't one of those vague, open-to-interpretation answers. This was clear, a direct shot at the Steelers' offensive system. Which brings up a bigger question. Are we going to be following all of the Steelers' X's this year? Honestly, how can we not? This season is loaded with storylines. Pickens is in Dallas. Kenny Pickett's in Cleveland. Minkah Fitzpatrick joined the Dolphins. Russell Wilson's with the Giants. Justin Fields is in New York with the Jets. Najee Harris is with the Chargers. There are so many connections, it's almost impossible to avoid covering them. I'll try not to overdo it, but let's be real. This stuff is fascinating. And it's absolutely relevant when former key players take public shots at the Steelers. Speaking of Steelers legends, TJ Watt recently sat down with Graham Bensinger and gave one of the most honest interviews we've heard from him. When asked about his legacy and the team's lack of playoff success during his tenure, Watt didn't hide his frustration. He acknowledged that it bothers him deeply to have 0 playoff wins attached to his name. He said that when people talk about TJ Watt, they also talk about the fact that he hasn't helped deliver a single postseason victory. And that's something that genuinely drives him. He emphasized how much he wants to be part of the solution and how much it matters to him to be remembered not just as a great individual player, but as someone who helped restore the Steelers' winning tradition. That attitude is exactly what you want from a franchise cornerstone. It also makes his recent contract extension feel even more justified. Watt clearly wants to be a Steeler for life. But here's the tricky part. His new deal carries a massive price tag. With cap hits of $42 million in both 2026 and 2027, that money could limit the team's flexibility unless they restructure again down the line. While the contract was technically a 3-year extension, When combined with his existing deal, it's more like a 4-year agreement. And viewed that way, the average annual value becomes more manageable, closer to $35–36 million per year. Still, a bit of sticker shock remains. Watt is now the highest-paid defensive player in the NFL, earning a smidge more than Myles Garrett. And yes, while you're happy to have him locked in, a small discount would have helped the Steelers build a stronger team around him. That said, if there's any player you'd bet on to age gracefully and maintain a high level of performance, it's TJ Watt. Aside from a rough patch to close last season, his career has been consistently dominant. There was one funny moment in that interview, though. TJ didn't seem to know how many Super Bowls Mean Joe Green won, or even that Jerome Bettis only has 1 ring. TJ, if you're going to be the face of the franchise, brush up on that Steelers history. Mean Joe, 4 rings. Bettis, 1. You've been here long enough to know that. In the end, TJ's answer was exactly what you'd hope for from a team leader. He wants to be part of the next chapter in Steelers history. He's motivated to erase the playoff drought and add team success to his individual accomplishments. The price tag may be steep, but the drive and commitment are absolutely there. And if the Steelers can build the right pieces around him, maybe, just maybe, they can finally break through. So, to wrap it all up, yeah, this season is going to be insane. There are so many connections, so many narratives, and so much at stake. Whether it's tracking Pickens in Dallas or watching TJ chase his playoff breakthrough, we've got no shortage of drama. Buckle up, Steelers Nation. This ride is just getting started.